Welcome to the 253rd installment of Ear to the Ground, the Land Stewardship Project's podcast on family farming, sustainable agriculture, local food systems, and local democracy. I'm Alex Romano, member of the Soil Health Team. The COVID-19 pandemic's effects have rippled through communities and industries across Minnesota in different ways. When outbreaks temporarily shuttered several meat processing plants, including Worthington's JBS USA Pork Processing Plant and Sioux Falls, South Dakota's Smithfield Foods Production Facility, it left producers and consumers in limbo. Farmers were left needing places to process livestock they weren't able to move onto market. Large retailers like Walmart experienced meat shortages, leading a surge of customers searching for new sources. Both turned their sights on local meat processors and markets. Local meat processing is crucial for small to mid-sized family farms who sell processed meat directly to consumers or through food co-ops and other retail venues. This allows farmers to sell their own price rather than having to sell animals through unpredictable conventional markets. Dover Processing is a USDA-inspected meat processing plant located in Dover, which is in southeastern Minnesota. Eric Klein established Dover Processing in 2017. After graduating from LSP's first Farm Beginnings class some 2 decades ago, Eric and Lisa Klein launched Hidden Stream Farm, which raises pasture-based meats for direct sale to consumers, retailers, and restaurants. I recently sat down with Eric to talk about why they decided to start a meat processing business, what it took to do it, and the challenges involved.
Okay, I'm Eric Klein. We live in Elgin, Minnesota. Our farm meat company is Hidden Stream Farm in Elgin, and we also own Dover Processing, which is a USDA inspected meat processing plant located in Dover, Minnesota, just about 12 miles south of us.
Eric, I was wondering if you can give me some background on Dover Processing and talk about how you got it started.
So Dover was kind of built out of necessity of our own for processing. For many, many years, we just went to all the small processors in the area weekly. We were going to Winona, we were going to Iota, we'd go to Lake City just to get the type of processing we needed done that week. We started out with a fresh meat program 19 years ago, and it just kind of evolved from there. That's what the customers wanted. We dealt with grocery stores, meat shops, corporate cafeterias, restaurants, and they were just accustomed to that, and that's kind of the model that we fit into, or we provided that service instead of a frozen product that, the normal way, or not normal way, but the way it was always done is you kind of raised your animals, and then in the fall or the spring you would do your butchering for the year to get by. Farmers markets, things like that. So then doing fresh, that kind of threw that out the window, and we had to process every week. So for as long as we can remember, we've been processing pigs every Tuesday, cutting every Wednesday, and we deliver every Thursday.
Okay.
That's been our schedule, kind of like milking cows.
Yeah.
You stick to that routine. So then, we were really kind of taking up a lot of space all over the place, and our processors were glad to work with us, but at the same time we were trying to grow and expand different product lines and things, and being able to use a dock truck and have a loading dock to load at with the pallets. On these old plants, they just don't have that stuff.
So you built new?
So we built new.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the plant we built in Dover was brand new. It was repurposed. The building and the structure, the property was there, but we basically gutted the building and started from scratch. Because with USDA, you have to have all floor drains, and you have to have rooms, and you have to have segregation, and so we basically had this great building with beautiful concrete floor. We had to tear up every inch of it and start all over again.
How many years did it take to?
It took about 6 months.
6 months
to build it.
You were ambitious.
Right. Well, I mean, we hired general contractor. They did it. I mean, that was just the building. I spent 4 years planning it, but the actual process went pretty good. So this allowed us, and then allowed us to bring everything, in house and work on more products, more development, different types of sausages, things like that.
So was it, were you the sole owners and you were operating, you were doing the processing
No,
side of it?
no, we got a guy. I hired a really good guy who lives locally, Jeff, and he's the plant manager since before it opened. So he does all the overseeing, and then he takes care of it every day, and
So what services does Dover Processing provide now?
So we're a full service USDA inspected. So we do slaughter, we do processing, cutting, sausages, smoking, snack sticks. We do what's called co-packing for other people. So if somebody comes to us and says, hey, I want to do this meat product, or I want to do snack sticks, they don't necessarily have to bring the animals in. They can take the meat that they get, as long as it's USDA inspected, they can bring that to us, and we can take that and make that into a final product for them. And then we can package it, we can put their label on it, and then they have a product to go to retail with.
Is that a popular service?
It comes and goes. I get lots of calls for, some guy wanted 2,000 pounds of brats a week is what he was thinking. Another meatball company wanted to launch. We're part of the Minnesota co-packer directory. They actually have one at the MDA, at the Department of Ag.
I wasn't aware of that.
So, and it has all the list of people that do canning for salsas, or they do packaging, or they do meat processing, or maybe it's a co-packer you could take your organic wheat to, and they would grind it into flour for you and package it and label it. So all these people that have all this infrastructure, they can offer that out to a small business that wants to grow a brand or start a brand or add more value to their company.
Yeah, no kidding. Can contract it out.
Yeah.
So when you started this meat processing facility, where did you said it took 4 years of planning. Where were you getting your information or advice? Like, where were you going for that?
There wasn't a lot out there, actually.
Really?
We found worksheets. I think it was like Iowa State or Illinois actually had a meat processing worksheet, spreadsheet, whole, not just one sheet, but where you input your numbers of what's your volume, what do you want to play, or do you want to pay people, what do you think your overhead, what do you think your insurance is going to be, and it spits it all out at the end of what you can do and what's your volume. I'm going to do 10 beef and I'm going to do 2 pigs and 5 lambs a week. Can I make money at this scale, and this is my cost? That was really helpful.
Were you going to make money processing for yourselves, or were you going to have other customers right away?
We were going to have other customers, yeah.
Okay.
For the size of the building.
Okay.
I suppose if we went smaller, we would have could have just done ours, but for the size of the building. And that's the whole timing worked out. The old staple of Ladeber Meats in Winona, which had been around for like 50 years. About a year after we opened, that business got sold.
Oh, wow.
And the next owners didn't do a very good job with it. So then we just had this influx of customers coming at us saying, can you cut like them?
Would you characterize Dover as like a mid-size processing facility?
I would. Small, mid-sized.
Okay.
I mean, if you're comparing like the Tysons,
yeah,
and then a little locker plant, you've got Lorenz down below the big guys, and we're just above the little guys.
Okay.
So I guess I'd kind of put us in that realm.
And how did you determine your capacity? Like,
we kind of knew what the building would hold. We worked with a designer too that kind of helped us design the plant, and he had the AutoCAD type drawings that he could put all the rooms together and place equipment, and then we just kind of spec'd. We want to do, like 20 beef in a pre-chill cooler, and which equates to about 25 beef in the holding cooler. And that's just kind of the number we picked and designed it to that,
Okay.
and what we could do.
So you weren't anticipating the closure of this other local
No,
processor?
no, we figured we had plenty of room.
Okay. Great.
And even then, we were still, we still had room. And then when the pandemic hit, then, yeah, it was just, everything was full,
Okay.
trying to keep up.
What would you say were the biggest barriers in terms of regulations or finances, equipment, labor?
Regulation wasn't too bad. You gotta have a good lawyer, a good attorney to help you work through all those processes, because they look at things like, what's the zoning? I've heard of other plants that built it. This is not around here, but all of a sudden they built it, and then the city comes and says, well, we can't handle your wastewater. This is a huge place.
Yeah.
They had to build their own, raise another 2 or 3 million to build their own water treatment plant.
Holy smokes.
So, it's just that due diligence of having to, teaches you to be a good business person, because you really have to know everything. We did have to do some zoning things, but and then that's the financing's the tough one, depending on if you're loaded or not.
What was your approach?
So we had to do a lot of financing with banks and stuff like that. So
Was that
and the
a challenge?
SBA. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're just it's not everybody building a plant every day.
Yeah.
It's something that has to be proven, and everybody has to take a risk on it. But
Why do you think they took a risk with you?
I'm sure. Well, it helps that we had an established business. We weren't just coming off of a job already cutting meat. So,
Okay.
but yeah. So, what else was there?
Equipment?
Equipment. Lots of sales guys. The guy that helped us design, he was a resource, and just talked to lots of people. There's lots of people will sell you anything you want to buy. But again, the biggest thing is you got to do your due diligence, and you really got to just look for other options and not take it at face value. At least that's what I found.
Okay.
People could sell me anything I wanted, but was it supported? Was the price reasonable? That was a big thing. Support, we found out who would support us when it wouldn't when it would break down, and who wouldn't.
Right.
So that.
Does that happen often?
Yeah, you'd think, okay, I bought this, I'm good for 5 years or 10 years.
Yeah.
On this $100,000 piece of equipment, but no, they're running, they're working hard, so you gotta fix them. Sometimes every 6 months or a year or all the time. And that's just added expense. The only thing we've changed or upgraded is just because of the sheer volume that we've been doing.
Okay.
That we had never planned on. We thought this one stuffer would be our go-to. Well, we outgrew that and had to buy a second one, so now we're running 2 stuffers and 2 grinders, and because you can't make sausage and ground beef at the same time. Something gets left behind, and product doesn't get made on time. So just to keep the whole flow of the plant going, we had to invest even more. Yeah.
What about labor? You said you found a local person who was very skilled to be the property manager.
So Jeff runs the plant for me.
Okay.
And then we've been good. We've had a lot of good help. That we got a really good team there now that's doing well. Supports Jeff, and we get a lot of stuff through there in a week. We're confined by the USDA, so we only work that 8 hours, 7 to 3, 3:30. So we can't just, not like a farm or something where you can just run till the middle of the night. Once you're done, and you got to try and get it done in that time. Plus we have to pay overtime. We're not a farm business, so.
But finding that skilled labor, was that a challenge at all? Or you said there?
We've had a few that came in skilled.
Okay.
And then other guys have just learned being there.
Okay.
Or they've been taught, So they've been willing to learn. The ones that haven't been have kind of weeded themselves out.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones that really want to and appreciate and like the work, they've stayed with us.
Good.
So it's been good that way. So fingers crossed.
Yeah. Okay.
Labor's not easy right now on either end.
No. And you'd say all those folks were local?
Yep.
Oh, that's really good.
Yep.
Can you share a little bit about how the COVID-19 pandemic over this last year has impacted your processing business?
So it just caught us off guard, I guess. All processors across the country. You weren't expecting all these plants to shut down and the ramifications that would have. So we were just, in March, their phone was just ringing off the hook. People were taking dates, So basically in March of 19, or of 20, all of 2021 was full. So everybody's like, give me these dates. They didn't know if they had animals on the ground or not.
Jeez.
It's just a panic. So we were full. We had lists, single page paper, 10 pages long, both sides of names. We're like, we can't even put names down because we don't even know. We don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And our plant stayed healthy the whole time through.
Really?
Yeah. We never had any positives or anything.
I was gonna say, did you have to change like operations and how it was working?
No, everybody stays pretty much away.
Okay.
They're not like this, like at Hormel.
Yeah.
Everybody's like over there, and you got cold air blowing. It's 38 degrees in there. That I think that helps a lot too.
So how much would you say you increased capacity over that time, or because you're limited that 8-hour day? And
I'd say, well, we still kept it full, but I'd say if we were at 85 beforehand, we were at, or do I say if we were at 90 beforehand, we were probably running about 110%.
Wow.
Just because all the rails were full constantly. You'd be killing and animals would be going the other way just as much as you could. We didn't do the big hog ones. Like other plants were killing all those 30 hogs a day, every day, and just pumping them out. They weren't federal either, but so we just stayed with our main customers, which they appreciated. We didn't give out spaces to the big hog guys. They found other ways to go, but took care of our main customers, and a lot of direct marketers have really started up and really going well.
Really?
It's really, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the good side. There's a lot of people down your area of the woods that have started their businesses this last year, and are really doing well with it.
Do you think some of your customers have added more animals to their operations, or have they adjusted based on?
Well, I think the ones that are really running with it now and saw the opportunity and really built customer base, they're definitely increasing their farms now and increasing their profitability. Instead of just selling at the sale barn or whatever, now they're learning to add value to their product. And we work with them directly to help them do that. We're like, hey, we got this product, or they come to us with a product they find. Can you make that? Yeah, we can probably figure that out.
Sounds like it's important to you that this business serves a certain kind of farmer, maybe. Can you maybe describe like some of the values behind?
So, us being small farms too, that was kind of our premise.
Yeah.
We wanted to support ourselves and our business and allow that to grow, but we also wanted to be that same avenue for those people, those young families that are getting going, so that they could do that. And we, the bulk of our business, we talked about the co-packing, but 90% of our business is dealing with farmers every day. And then they've got a quarter of a beef, sold to this person, and then we're that service that works with all their customers, takes all their individual cutting orders, and we custom cut to what that customer needs. So the farmer, can then charge them for their meat. So we offer, that's a service to the farmer, I guess, that they don't have to bring it all home and then divvy it all out and try and figure out how everybody wants things cut differently. So that's just a valuable service I think we offer to them.
Yeah, because I am hearing that over the last year from some direct marketers that now people are investing in walk-in freezers and cuts have a higher profit margin and everything. So
Right.
they're kind of reading what's changed in the retail side of things, or their customers demanding certain things. Yeah.
And some are getting out into, the Hy-Vees and stuff like that, and the gas stations, and finding that niche.
But what do you see the ripple effect around rural communities that a small to mid-size facility like yours provides?
Well, we're trying to, be more of a place for them to shop and source their proteins. It's hard, especially when you're in a little town like Dover. All these communities are bedroom communities to Rochester, so it's a struggle. Our intentions are to be able to support these small communities. We support them really well on a labor side. The folks at Smith told me once, Smith, Southeast Minnesota Initiative Foundation.
Do grants. Yeah.
They do a lot of entrepreneurial type stuff too.
Okay.
Where we have 12 employees in a town of 600 or 1,000, that's equivalent to like a big factory or something in Rochester or Minneapolis that has 100, 200 employees. It's just when you balance the population of the area,
Right.
it's a big change. So we figured when we opened, maybe 4 or 5 employees. We're at like 15.
Oh, wow.
So.
And how long has your longest employee been there, for reference?
Well, other than Jeff, I thought my original guy was going to make it, but he didn't. He fell through. I don't know. It's got to be 4 years.
Okay.
So since we opened in 2016, I think. So we're still really new. Still learning.
Yeah, and it sounds like you have a great system for training people in instead of needing to find skilled people right off the
We're trying. That's really all there really isn't. It's a dying breed. Meat processing. To actually custom cut and know your cuts versus being on a line somewhere where you just make that same cut all day long.
Interesting.
At Hormel, that one person just cuts a bone out of a ham all day long. That's all he does. My guys will be deboning meat, or they'll be cutting steaks, or they'll be tagging hams, or hanging bellies, or helping with sausage, or doing ground beef, or to clean up.
I've heard that from a number of people, and I'm curious, how would you characterize someone who's very skilled at that? Like, what are some of the traits that person has? What are you looking for?
What I would call an experienced guy is one knows how to keep a knife sharp. That's top of the list. And then if they actually know the cuts and they know how to break down a carcass, those are Yeah, if you know that the carcass and you know the knife, everything else, then it's just a matter of learning each individual plant's process. Because every plant cuts different. So
Is that how you set yourself apart a little bit, to some degree?
how we cut?
Yeah.
I would say some
Yeah.
people say that. Yeah, we want to come to you because we like the way you cut. We like the way you package. We put a big emphasis. When we bought equipment, we put a big emphasis on packaging.
Okay.
We don't wrap in paper. We don't shrink wrap. Where it's just a shrunk down plastic. Everything is vacuum sealed. We have one machine that does the vacuum pouches. We have another $100,000 machine that just runs film through, and you put the product in the package, and it puts another layer on top and shoots it out. But you can run a lot of volume quick. So if somebody comes with snack sticks, we can pack 100 pounds of snack sticks pretty fast
Okay.
instead of sticking them all in a bag and away you go. You spend hours and hours. We thought we were good, and then we invested in a lot more efficiency type equipment last year
Okay.
just to help,
With the capacity.
right?
Yeah.
To be able to get hams faster, to be able to cut sticks faster, to be able to run brats better. Yeah. So we've used the AGRI grant a couple times
Oh,
at the MDA.
MDA.
Yeah. That's been helpful.
good. Do you think grants and programs like that are pretty accessible?
I think
to
so.
folks like you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you do the grant writing?
I do.
Okay.
It's good the MDA makes it simple.
Good.
If we were doing a USDA grant, then that's like way over anybody's head.
Oh, okay.
But MDA makes it very simple. What's your plan? What's your budget? The first one before we opened, I had help writing that one,
Okay.
and then the second one for the equipment this last year, that was easier.
What are you competing against for the farmers' support?
Oh yeah, the commodity world. When corn's almost $7 and beef are high and hogs are through the roof. They haven't seen these levels in a decade, I think, or something like that. It becomes a real struggle. Are you in it for the long haul, or are you in it for the short term? Like we're in it for the long term, so we know these are great times right now. Money's good, or the money, you can get a lot of money for your animals with little work, but it won't last. So
I've been wondering about that, like how quickly we seem to want to rebound after an experience like the one we've had over the last year. And do you feel like the industry is changing and shifting, and because we're learning from these things, or are we sort of falling back into old ways?
People say the local food is making a resurgence. People want to know, but at the same time, as soon as the shelves at the stores got restocked, I don't think it took that long for everybody to go back. Not everybody, but there's a segment of people that said, yes, this is the way I want to go. I don't like this insecurity. I know the farmer. I know where I can get the stuff. But there's the bulk, I feel, of the economy that will easily slip back into the easy button.
Have you heard of any other processors starting up in the region or in the Midwest? Or
I know there's a lot of plants being built
okay.
that just started going crazy. A lot of other states gave just huge amounts of money to plants to expand. Minnesota didn't, but Iowa, South Dakota, North Dakota, Iowa. I don't know if Wisconsin, but they were all given 50. Colorado, they were all given like 50 to 100,000
Really?
per plant to just
Do something.
do something, make it
Help.
make more room, make more capacity,
Okay.
and so Minnesota gave out a $5,000, that mini livestock thing.
Yep.
You spend 10, they give you 5.
So what advice would you give? You know, I know you mentioned like just do your due diligence, find a good lawyer.
You know, good accountant, good lawyer. You know, we had a guy help us kind of put a package together. We had tried to do this ourselves, go into banks and a business plan. We actually found a guy that just kind of helped us package it better and talk to the bankers and be that third party.
Who was he with, or?
Just a private guy.
Oh, okay.
Just got lucky and found him in another meeting I went to and said, hey, would you be willing to work with us and stuff. So
yeah, because you
it was
have
just
a full life as a full-time farmer as well.
Right.
So
and being farming is already capital intensive. There isn't a ton of extras, so to help us pull that whole package together and this and that, and he helped us. Like the SBA, that's a good program that a lot of small businesses start with. The 504 program.
that's a federal program.
Yeah.
You said? Okay.
Yeah, Small Business Administration.
Okay.
They have offices, or I think they're kind of like individual companies that write their program. So they're one in Rochester. They write the 504 programs, and then they're the facilitator. But we still make our payments to the government
Yeah.
and stuff. So, but it's a good low interest, long term. Helps you spread all that. Depending on what size of a plant you want to build, it depends on how much money you need. Can you do it for $500,000, or is it going to cost you $2 million, or is it going to cost you $4 million, or depends on how crazy you want to get.
Yeah. Do you think someone coming into it now would be able to purpose some of these older plants, or are they looking at having to put up their own?
They want to go federal or state or custom.
What is a good? I mean,
to go federal, it's hard to repurpose an old plant.
Okay.
It can be done, but it takes a lot of updating.
Is that the standard though? Like, would most people want to go federal? Like, you'd have more business that way?
It depends on your area. Now in Iowa, nobody's federal.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, everybody's within the borders of Iowa.
Right.
And there must not be many on the outside edges. So their radius of their customer doesn't require, and they all sell within that state. It's a nice square rectangle state. So we have people that come all the way out of central Iowa.
Really?
Because they're organic or certified organic, and 2, they want USDA because they're not too far from like Illinois. But they come 3.5 hours, sometimes twice a week. If they do pigs one day and hogs and beef the next.
Wow, it's an incredible amount of time.
Yeah, that's a lot of driving. Depending on where your region is, if you're living out by Vanderpool's where there isn't much processing, I think it's a great. I think they could still go, because I think there's still a huge need. We're kind of in a weird little mecca here of USDA plants.
Yes.
There's that one's not USDA anymore, but Scioto, Chatfield, Lake City, Lorenz. There's like at least 5 USDA plants, slaughter plants, in a 50-mile radius.
Yep.
So it's like unheard of. But I feel like this little area of the world is pretty good. We got through pretty well unscathed. We were all busy, and but people were pretty patient. They understood. You get a few people were calling in May saying, why can't I get in next month? Like, have you watched the news?
Yeah. You stepped outside.
Right.
Yeah.
The world's coming to an end. No, they were all pretty good.
Okay.
So, but I can definitely see where other parts of the world, or even parts of Minnesota, that really just don't have processing. You know, we call them the food deserts and stuff like that. I talked to a lot of people in Iowa. I talked to a lady in Kansas quite a bit. She's trying to grow her meat business and figure out processing in just a regional sense, not just Kansas, but just how can I work so we process for her once a year.
Well, I'm curious if there's anything else you would want to add that I didn't ask about, or is there like a specific story that kind of captures some of the success you've experienced with Dover processing?
Can't really think of any stories or anything, but we've just been head down, just going. Haven't even looked up to really, we take care of our employees, and they all get paid well because we want to keep them around.
Yeah.
So, I think just sheer determination, is what it takes. It's not an easy thing to do. It's a demanding, I say it's worse than, some of the farm type stuff where it's all day and you're standing in the cold, and it takes a certain breed of people to do it. But it's I just encourage people before they do that they really, I don't know, maybe even go work in a plant or go spend some time in a plant and see, if it's a farmer wanting to get into it.
Yeah.
Really know what your market is, and you really have to not have any other options for processing. We knew we needed it.
Yeah.
So, it's a good pair for the farm, but it's also, it takes us away from it too. But to grow and to do what we need to do, and to be able to, we could also, we're glad that we were able to offer this for other farmers too. It's not just something where we just lock the door and say we're only doing Hidden Stream Farm. In the scheme of things, we're pretty small as we've been so full. We're there every week processing, but there's so many other people coming in and growing their businesses, which is good to see too.
Yeah, absolutely.
The more we can get people buying local and not out of the big stores, that's kind of what we want to, that's kind of been our whole vision, I guess, for the last 20 plus years that we've been doing this.
Yeah.
Get people to buy local, and that's the best way.
For resources on local meat processing, see the podcast page for Ear to the Ground episode 253. If you have comments or suggestions about this podcast, contact Alex Romano at aromano@landstewardshipproject.org. By the way, it helps us greatly if you can give Ear to the Ground a rating on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or whatever podcast platform you utilize. Thanks to Laura Borgendale, a Western Minnesota musician, for Ear to the Ground's theme music. And a special thank you to all of Land Stewardship Project's members who make initiatives such as this podcast possible. If you're not a member, visit landstewardshipproject.org to learn how you can support LSP.